Have you ever wondered how far human cruelty can go when under the influence of evil forces? Today, we're going to delve into one of the darkest stories in the Bible, revealing how King Herod the Great was consumed by Satan's control. Imagine a king who started out with grandiose promises, but ended up marked by paranoia and cruelty. Herod, known for his magnificent buildings, is also remembered for acts of extreme violence, including the terrible massacre of the innocents, a desperate attempt to eliminate the newborn Jesus. But what drove Herod to these horrific acts? And how did God and his angels intervene to protect the divine plan? Get ready for a fascinating journey. Discover how demonic possession shaped Herod's actions and how God, through dreams and angels, guided and protected those at the center of this chaos. From warning the Magi to guiding the Holy Family to Egypt, God's hand was in every detail, showing that good always prevails. Let's explore how, even in the darkest circumstances, God's justice prevails. Herod's death and Jesus' safe return to Israel are proof of God's power over evil. This story is a powerful reminder that, even in the most difficult times, God is in control. Herod the Great was born around 73 BC at a time of great political turmoil. The son of Antipater, an influential advisor to Rome, Herod stood out from a young age for his talent for politics and administration. In 47 BC, he was appointed governor of Galilee and quickly gained the trust of the Romans due to his effectiveness in maintaining order. In 40 BC, when the Parthians invaded Judea, Herod was forced to flee, but determined to regain his territory, he went to Rome where the Senate appointed him a king of the Jews. With Roman support, Herod returned to Judea and, after a 3-year campaign, captured Jerusalem in 37 BC, consolidating his power. Herod married Miriam, a Hasmonean princess, to legitimize his reign, but his paranoia led him to eliminate any perceived threat, including members of his own family. His cruelty became legendary, with brutal murders marking his reign. Despite his violent actions, Herod was a great builder, responsible for monumental projects such as the renovation of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, fortresses, palaces, and the port city of Caesarea Maritima. These constructions served to demonstrate his power and reinforce his authority. However, Herod never won the complete loyalty of his people due to his Idumean origins and pro-Roman policies. His story is a testimony to how absolute power can corrupt, turning a leader into a tyrant. Herod the Great is a complex and contradictory figure, whose rise to power and reign are marked by both great achievements and extreme cruelty. Herod the Great is not only remembered for his cruelty and paranoia, but also for his grandiose constructions, which transformed the landscape of Judea and left an impressive architectural legacy. These works were not only demonstrations of power and wealth, but also attempts to win the favor of the Jewish people and Rome. Let's explore some of Herod's most remarkable creations, which still leave us in awe today. Did you know that Herod rebuilt the Second Temple in Jerusalem, turning it into one of the wonders of the ancient world? This monumental project, known as Herod's Temple, was an attempt to consolidate his position and win the approval of the Jews. He enlarged the Temple Mount, created vast courtyards, and embellished the sanctuary with white marble and gold. The grandeur and beauty of the temple attracted pilgrims from all over, reinforcing Jerusalem's centrality in Jewish religious life. Imagine being there, seeing the gleam of gold reflecting the sunlight, a symbol of power and devotion. Masada, an imposing fortress built on top of an isolated mountain, is another testament to Herod's ingenuity. Designed as a safe haven, Masada was virtually impregnable, with its high walls, food depots, and complex water systems. This fortress was not only a demonstration of military power, but also a symbol of resistance and survival. Herod built luxurious palaces inside the fortress, complete with Roman baths, showing that even in times of crisis, he didn't give up on comfort and opulence. Can you imagine an entire city built from scratch to impress both Jews and Romans? Caesarea Maritima, a magnificent port city, was one of Herod's most ambitious projects. With an artificial harbor, theaters, temples, and a hippodrome, Caesarea was a center of culture and commerce. The city symbolized the fusion of Jewish and Roman cultures, showing Herod's ability to create a cosmopolitan and modern environment. The port of Caesarea was a true marvel of engineering, allowing large ships to dock and facilitating international trade. Let's not forget the Herodium, a fortress palace built on an artificial hill. This complex included a luxurious palace, gardens, baths, and a theater, as well as serving as Herod's mausoleum. The Herodium was visible from miles away, a powerful affirmation of Herod's presence and legacy. This palace symbolized Herod's desire to be remembered for his greatness and achievements, even after his death. Herod's buildings were not just architectural projects, they were instruments of power and propaganda. Each building, each city, was a declaration of his authority and an attempt to immortalize his name in history. Walking through these structures, it's impossible not to feel Herod's grandeur and ambition. But beyond the stone and marble, These buildings tell us stories of ambition, fear, and the desire for control. They make us reflect on the legacy we leave behind and the price we are willing to pay for power and recognition. Herod the Great is a figure who continues to fascinate and intrigue, a leader whose actions and buildings have left an indelible mark on history. His architectural works invite us to explore not only the story of a king, but also the complex dynamics of power, faith, and legacy. The most notorious episode that highlights the demonic influence on Herod is the so-called Massacre of the Innocents. Imagine the tense atmosphere in Jerusalem when the Magi from the east arrived, asking about the newborn king of the Jews. Herod, already known for his paranoia and cruelty, saw this question as a direct threat to his power. According to Matthew's Gospel, the fear of losing his throne led Herod to make a desperate and horrendous decision. The Magi, guided by a star, arrived in Jerusalem in search of the Messiah. When Herod heard the prophecy of the birth of a new king, he was deeply disturbed. He secretly summoned the Magi and, pretending to be interested in worshipping the newborn, asked them to inform him when they had found the child. His real intention was to eliminate any threat to his reign. When the Magi, warned in a dream not to return to Herod, left for their own land by another route, Herod's fury knew no bounds. He ordered the slaughter of all the children in Bethlehem and the surrounding area who were up to 2 years old. Imagine the pain and despair of the families, the tears of the mothers who lost their children in such a brutal way. This cruel and unprecedented act became known as the Massacre of the Innocents. This massacre is a clear reflection of the demonic influence on Herod. His paranoia and thirst for power were exacerbated to the point of committing such a horrendous act. The Bible does not directly report the presence of Satan in this episode, but the level of cruelty and the irrational nature of Herod's order suggest an evil influence, manipulating his actions to try to thwart the divine plan. However, the story also shows us God's intervention to protect his plan. Before the massacre, an angel appeared to Joseph in a dream, instructing him to flee to Egypt with Mary and the baby Jesus. This warning saved Jesus' life and thwarted Herod's plans. It is a powerful reminder that, even in the face of the forces of evil, divine providence is always present, guiding and protecting those who follow God's path. The brutality of the massacre had a deep and lasting impact on history. It symbolizes the extremes to which corrupted power can go and the suffering it can cause. The pain of the Bethlehem families echoes to this day as a grim reminder of the consequences of tyranny and evil influence. Herod spent the rest of his days consumed by fear and paranoia, surrounded by real and imaginary enemies. His cruelty, exacerbated by demonic influence, removed him from any chance of redemption. His death was marked by suffering and illness, a kind of divine justice for the horrors he inflicted. The Massacre of the Innocents is not only a story of horror, but also of hope and divine intervention. It reminds us that, despite the presence of evil, God's light shines brighter. The flight of the Holy Family to Egypt symbolizes divine protection and the fulfillment of prophecy, showing that God's plan cannot be thwarted by evil actions. This story is a powerful reflection on the dangers of unchecked power and the importance of faith and divine protection. By exploring the Massacre of the Innocents, we are called to reflect on the nature of evil, the fragility of human life, and the constant presence of God in times of crisis. In the midst of Herod's chaos and cruelty, God's presence and the intervention of the angels were beacons of hope and protection. Even during Herod's dark and tyrannical reign, God's hand never departed from the plan of salvation that was underway. Let's explore how God and his angels played crucial roles in ensuring that the divine plan was fulfilled, even in the face of the mortal threat that loomed over Jesus and his family. Imagine the terrifying scene in Bethlehem, where the shadow of the massacre stretched over the city. In the midst of the darkness, God was not absent. His constant vigilance over his plan of salvation was a comfort and a guarantee for those who trusted in him. God was not only aware of Herod's evil intentions, but was also actively involved in protecting and guiding those who were destined to play vital roles in the history of redemption. At crucial moments, God sent angels as messengers and protectors, guaranteeing the safety of the Holy Family and the fulfillment of the prophecies. These angels were not mere spectators, but active agents in the divine plan. The angel who warned Joseph. In a dream, an angel appeared to Joseph, warning him of imminent danger and instructing him to flee to Egypt with Mary and the baby Jesus. This warning came just as Herod was about to carry out his devastating plan. Imagine the relief and urgency Joseph must have felt on receiving this divine guidance. The angel's intervention was crucial in saving Jesus' life and ensuring that God's plan continued uninterrupted. The angel and the Magi. Another example of angelic intervention occurred when the Magi, guided by the star, were warned in a dream not to return to Herod. This warning prevented Herod from knowing the location of Jesus, thwarting his evil plans. The angel's intervention was a decisive factor in protecting the Messiah and ensuring that God's plan was not compromised. Divine intervention was not limited to instructions and warnings. God also ensured the physical and spiritual protection of the Holy Family during their journey to Egypt. This period of flight was full of challenges and uncertainties, but God's presence was evident at every step. Divine protection was a constant, allowing Mary, Joseph, and Jesus to find safe refuge until the danger passed. The intervention of God and the angels was not only a matter of immediate protection, but also of ensuring that the prophecies were fulfilled. The fact that Jesus was saved from Herod's massacre and later returned to Israel was a direct fulfillment of the promises made about the Messiah. Every divine action and angelic intervention was a step towards the fulfillment of the scriptures and the realization of the plan of salvation for humanity. The story of divine intervention during Herod's reign is a powerful reminder that, even in the most desperate situations, God's hand is always present. It teaches us about the importance of faith, divine protection, and the certainty that God's plan cannot be thwarted. Even when we face the darkest challenges, we can trust that God is working on our behalf and that His angels are involved in protecting and guiding those He loves. The divine intervention during Herod's reign is a story of hope and protection in the midst of evil. It reminds us that no matter what evil forces may be at play, justice and God's plan will prevail. By exploring how God and His angels acted to protect Jesus and ensure the continuity of the plan of salvation, we are inspired to trust in God's constant presence in our lives. After the Magi visited the baby Jesus, a crucial dream changed the course of history. God sent an angel to warn the Magi about the real plans of Herod, who was determined to eliminate the newborn. This dream wasn't just a warning, it was a decisive divine intervention. While the Magi were resting after their visit to Jesus, they received a dream in which they were instructed not to return to Herod. This dream was an urgent warning of imminent danger, ensuring that Jesus' life would not be compromised. Following divine guidance, the Magi chose not to return to Jerusalem, completely thwarting Herod's plans. Their decision to take an alternative route was vital for the protection of baby Jesus, preventing Herod from locating him and carrying out his evil plan. Herod's frustration at discovering that the Magi had not returned as planned intensified his anger and despair. His attempt to eliminate Jesus was thwarted, highlighting the effectiveness of divine intervention in protecting the Messiah. This episode demonstrates how God can use dreams and visions to guide and protect those who participate in His plan. The Magi's obedience to divine instructions was crucial in guaranteeing Jesus' safety and the continuity of the plan of salvation. The warning to the Magi not only saved Jesus' life, but also underlines the importance of following divine guidance at critical moments. Press play and discover how divine intervention shaped this crucial moment in history. Despite his achievements, Herod is often remembered for his paranoia and cruelty. He became extremely suspicious of everyone around him, including members of his own family. Suspecting conspiracies, he had his wife Miriam and 3 of their children killed. When Herod's threat became imminent, God sent an angel in a dream to Joseph, instructing him to flee with Mary and the baby Jesus to Egypt. This divine intervention was crucial in protecting Jesus from the massacre ordered by Herod. Joseph received an urgent warning from the angel to escape immediately to Egypt. Without hesitation, he followed the instructions and took his family to safety, away from danger. While Herod continued his evil plan, the Holy Family found protection in Egypt. They remained there until Herod's death, ensuring Jesus' safety and the fulfillment of Hosea's prophecy. "Out of Egypt I called my son." The flight to Egypt was not just a safety measure, but a direct fulfillment of God's promises. This episode demonstrates how divine intervention can change the course of events and guarantee the realization of divine plans. The flight to Egypt illustrates divine care and protection in action. Press play and discover how this intervention ensured Jesus' safety and the fulfillment of the prophecies. The death of Herod the Great marked the end of a dark chapter in Israel's history and the beginning of a new period of security for the Holy Family. Herod, known for his cruelty and paranoia, met an end worthy of his actions. He died in 4 BC, not peacefully, but in the midst of intense physical suffering that mirrored the pain and anguish he himself had caused others. Imagine the scenario. Herod, a king who had ruled with an iron fist and created a reign marked by intrigue and violence, was now plagued by a debilitating illness. His last days were consumed by a painful illness, reflecting the internal turmoil that he himself had sown. Herod's physical agony symbolized the end of a period of terror, while divine justice seemed to manifest itself even in his death. With the death of Herod, a new horizon opened up for Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. The angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph again, bringing the news that it was safe to return to the land of Israel. This moment was an immense relief, a promise fulfilled that allowed the Holy Family to return to a safer and more stable environment. Joseph, Mary, and Jesus returned to Israel and settled in Nazareth, a small town in Galilee. The choice of Nazareth as their new home was direct divine guidance, ensuring that the family would remain protected and that the prophecies would continue to be fulfilled. Nazareth, although simple and modest, became the place where Jesus would spend most of his childhood, preparing for his future ministry. Herod's death was not just the elimination of a tyrant, but a crucial turning point in salvation history. The elimination of Herod allowed the divine plan to continue uninterrupted, and the Holy Family could finally live in peace. Jesus returned to Israel, and the choice of Nazareth as his home underlined the perfect synchronicity of the divine plan. This moment is a powerful reminder of divine justice and providence. The death of Herod and the subsequent return of the Holy Family show how God takes care of the details of his plan and how his intervention guarantees the realization of the promises made. The transformation of a period of terror into a time of security and stability is proof of divine power and faithfulness. The death of Herod and the return of Jesus to Nazareth mark a chapter of renewal and hope. This episode demonstrates how divine justice can drastically change the course of history and ensure that God's plans are realized. Press play and discover how Herod's death influenced Jesus' future and the fulfillment of God's promises. As we conclude this journey through the life of Herod the Great and the impact he had on the story of Jesus, it is impossible not to be touched by the grandeur of God's plan at work. The cycle of terror and violence imposed by Herod, followed by divine intervention and the subsequent protection of Jesus, reveals an impressive panorama of God's justice and providence. Herod, with his cruelty and paranoia, created an environment of fear and despair. His reign, marked by murder and intrigue, seemed like an endless cycle of oppression. But history shows us that no human force can prevail against the divine plan. His painful death and the end of his tyranny are a powerful testimony to the justice that, however long it takes, is always fulfilled. Herod's agony is a metaphor for the final destruction of all evil that opposes God's purposes. With Herod's death, a new era of hope opened up for the Holy Family. The news of the tyrant's death brought relief and the promise of a new beginning. The return of Mary, Joseph and Jesus to Israel and their choice of Nazareth as their home marked the beginning of a period of peace and preparation for the great mission that lay ahead for Jesus. Imagine Mary and Joseph's relief and joy at knowing that they could finally live without the constant fear of persecution. The choice of Nazareth as Jesus' new home was not a mere coincidence, but a precise manifestation of divine providence. Nazareth, with its simplicity, became the stage where Jesus would grow up and prepare for his ministry. Every detail of Jesus' life, from his flight to Egypt to his return to Nazareth, reveals the precision with which God conducts history, aligning each event with his promises and purposes. The story of Herod and the divine protection that surrounded Jesus challenges us to reflect on God's role in our own lives. How often do we face moments of danger and uncertainty, wondering if there is a way out? The answer lies in the certainty that God is always in control, working behind the scenes to fulfill his plans and protect those who follow him. The death of Herod and the return of Jesus are powerful reminders that, even in the darkest moments, God's light is never extinguished. This episode is not just an ancient story, it is an eternal teaching about God's justice, protection, and providence. The impact of Herod's death and Jesus' subsequent protection remind us that, even when evil seems to dominate, there is a greater force that guides and ensures that justice prevails. The lessons drawn from this event echo down the centuries, offering hope and encouragement to us all. As we close our exploration of this fascinating part of history, it is impossible not to feel a deep sense of awe at the way God orchestrates every detail to fulfill his purposes. Jesus' journey from fleeing Egypt to returning to Nazareth is a testament to God's faithfulness and the certainty that nothing can thwart God's plans. As we reflect on Herod's death and the protection that guaranteed Jesus' safety, we are invited to trust more deeply in God's providence in our own lives. And so we conclude our fascinating journey through the life of Herod and the divine protection that ensured the safety of the child Jesus. The story of Herod, with his tyranny and painful death, and God's subsequent intervention, reveals a plot of justice, providence, and hope that still resonates deeply today. If you felt the magnitude of this narrative, if you were touched by the way God orchestrates every detail to fulfill his purposes, be sure to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing and activating the notification bell, you'll always be updated on our new videos and you won't miss out on any incredible content. Your support is essential for us to continue bringing you engaging and inspiring stories like this one. Don't forget to leave a like, share this video with friends and family, and most importantly, leave your comment below. We want to know what you thought of this story, how it impacted you, and what other topics you'd like to see here on the channel. And of course, to continue exploring exciting and fascinating stories, check out the recommended videos that appear on the screen. They're packed with content that's sure to captivate your curiosity and enrich your knowledge. Thank you very much for watching to the end. Your presence and participation are what make this channel special. Until next time, and may you continue to follow and be enchanted by the stories and revelations we have to offer.
See you soon.